Load.
Hello and welcome to the Spiritual Science International Meet round of interviews. My name is Marc Caron and I'm here with my good friend Patri, who is the founder of 𝗏𝗏 Reset, where we met about a year and a half ago, where I was invited to be a speaker at her event. And today, as always, it's always a pleasure to be part of the PSSM global team and the work that they're doing around the world with pyramid and spiritual sciences. And today I have the pleasure of speaking yet again with my good friend, 𝗬𝗏. Now, Udo is a renowned name in the holistic health industry, and he sold, 250,000 copies of a book called Fats That Heal and Fats That Kill. And he has totally revamped the health sector when it comes down to fats and oils. And we're going to get into that because there's some really amazing things that Udo shares. He's got a serious case of, he was seriously poisoned a while back in 1980 with pesticides. And Udo had made it his mission to educate the world about holistic health. He's a dedicated man and has sold over 25 million bottles from his Udo's Choice product line of oils in over 50 plus countries. Welcome, Udo, to the program. It's great to see you here, and something a little different than our work with Conscious Living Network and the things that we do there. And it's, I'm happy to see you meet Pari as well. So great to be here.
Nice to be here. And I'm surprised they let you on here.
Well, like I said earlier, every now and again you get lucky, and I'm just grateful to have the opportunity to, share the work and what we do. And, it's always a pleasure to speak with you, Udo, because it's always informative. Mm-hmm. It's always entertaining, and we always have some great laughs. So I'm really going to enjoy this with Pari today. So
Welcome, Udo. I'm so grateful that you joined us in this Spiritual Science International Meet, which is organized by the PSSM Global team. And we are excited to learn all about the subject that you have dedicated your life to. And it's really fascinating. And it's more than that, it's really so important in the current times to take care of our health and our bodies. So welcome.
Thank you. Well, I'm glad to be here, Pari.
So, really where to start? And, first off, one of the things that PSM Global and Patri really talk highly about is that of a plant-based diet. And this is what the Spiritual Science International Meet is all about, is plant-based living. So maybe you can tell us maybe your experience with what you believe in, in regards to the benefits of plant-based living, and then start touching into your oils and what you found. Because when I first learned about your oils, it blew my mind because you shared some things that most people have no idea.
So if you look at the research, and this in the Western research, I mean, cultures have, like Indian culture has known for a long time that plants are really important. But here we kind of got more into, when we were gatherer hunters a long time ago, we probably ate more plants than animals, because when we had rocks to hunt with, the hunters came home without meat most of the time, because animals run away, or they fight, or they fly away, or they hide. And because they're mobile, they're much harder to catch. So when the hunters came home without meat, then the family ate vegetables, because they don't run away, they don't fight, and they're really easy to hunt down and kill. And so it's taken the Western world a long time to come around to recognizing that the foundation of physical health begins with vegetables, and if they use meat, to use it in small amounts, more like condiments rather than whole meals. And the research now is very clear. If you want the longest life and the best health, you do it on a diet of whole food plant-based. And then if you go completely on a plant-based diet, you need to take a vitamin B12 supplement. Mm-hmm. But even people who are not vegetarian can be deficient of vitamin B12. I think 39% of the population does not get enough vitamin B12. and that affects brain function and mood, and creates serious problems. So whole food plant-based diet and a B12 supplement is, according to the research, which is now lots of research has been done, the best way to live longest and healthiest. And as soon as you add eggs to it, or dairy to it, or fish to it, or meat to it, you actually bring the length of life down and the level of health down. And the more animal products you eat, the more you bring it down. It's now been studied so widely, is completely consistent. And for my own personal story, we lived on a farm without electricity, so we couldn't keep meat except in winter in a snowbank, but we didn't do that. But we had a huge garden, huge vegetable garden, and once a week my father would bring some meat from town where it was in a freezer in a locker, and so we would have meat once a week. We had dairy product, raw milk, quite a bit. And sometimes we had chickens and ate eggs occasionally. But we were never a super high. We didn't have steak every day like people like to do if they think they can afford it. And as I've gotten older, I have found that I do better and better as I get older on less and less animal and more plant foods. And it's very consistent. And I learned that first in 1988 when we did our first oil tour. We went to we did 101 days, went to 85 cities, drove 17,000 miles by road, visited 35 states.
Wow. And
we were on fire for telling the story about good oils made with health in mind. And we found out that when we ate carbs, we would feel like we were going to fall asleep because we had long days and short nights. You know, we would work all day and drive all night. And if we ate animal products, we would feel sluggish and heavy. And we figured that out in the first 2 weeks. So we did 86 days on raw vegetables, and literally like cabbage, we had cabbage, you know, and carrots, you know, and we didn't have anything to cook with. So we literally munched on vegetables those 86 days, and we had energy to burn. We were amazed how much energy we had on vegetables, because we grew up being told, you know, rabbit food, you know, that you don't get any energy. You know, if you're a red-blooded person, then you got to have meat. And it turns out not to be true. Even in terms of virility or erectile dysfunction, plant eaters are better off in that department than people who eat more animal foods. And it's like, and so this idea that plants are more important than animal foods is kind of fell out of favor in the West, but actually is true. And slowly we're coming around to it's more sustainable for the environment as well. And slowly we're coming around to making our diets, our food intake more plant-based.
Awesome. And you have a question, Pari, because I know I do.
Well, I'm just amazed that one of the questions that I had is at that point when you were switching, because you mentioned this is 1980s.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, there's not much awareness of plant-based food around the world.
Mm-hmm.
So was there a lot of resistance for you when you switching? Was there a lot of, how was it like? I'm just curious.
Oh, no, it was not a big deal because we were in a van without air conditioning driving through the country. So okay. There was just me and the driver.
Okay.
And we both did that. So we didn't have a problem with each other doing it. We just both found that it worked better for us. And we didn't tell people because our focus was not, let's all go plant-based at that time. Our focus at that time was, there are fats that are really good for you that you need to have. And there are fats that are really bad for you that you need to avoid. And here's how you do that. So so our focus was on oils, which happened to be also plant-based because we weren't talking about fish oils but it was all plant-based, but plant-based, organic, made with health in mind, undamaged, and rich in omega-3s, because 99% of the population doesn't get enough of those for optimum health.
Awesome. Now, so Udo, what's the biggest myth that we've been growing up with in regards to oils? Because you shared some things with me that when I first started learning about this back in 2007, which is when we actually first met for the first time. You know, when people are using these brand name oils for cooking and things of that nature, when you shared with me the process of what they do with that, people don't know. So maybe you can describe, you know, good oils, bad oils, and what we need to look for to make sure we're getting the right stuff into us and the wrong stuff out.
Yeah, you got 6 hours?
Before Udo answers that question, I want to just say, whenever I go to an aisle to pick up an oil, I always get confused whether should I bring in vegetable oil or canola oil or what oil, I don't know. And I just think that I pretend that, you know, if I see a low cholesterol, smart balance or something like that, that's a good oil, and then I just get home. So I want to talk about that as well.
Yeah. Okay. So there are lots of myths in the world of fats and oils. And I think one of the most persistent ones is that people think that if you eat fat, you're going to get fat. And that's like, it's like a logic of a 4-year-old, you know, eat fat, get fat. So it's like, seems like, well, that seems like that would make sense, but it isn't how the body works. Most overweight comes from eating carbs and eating more than you burn. And your body has to turn the carbs that you don't burn. If you burn them, they're good. If you eat more than you burn, your body has to turn the excess into fats. So I call carbohydrates undeclared fats. Because so that's one of the really big ones. The second one is people don't know what has been done to their oils. You know, when an oil is made, before you buy it, when it's usually a plastic bottle these days on the shelf in the store, that oil was pressed and it was then treated with sodium hydroxide, which is a very corrosive base, to get rid of some of the ingredients in the oil. Then it's treated with a very harsh acid called phosphoric acid. Then it goes rancid. Now it's then it's treated with bleaching clays, and then it goes rancid. And they do that to take out colored molecules in the oil that absorb light, and the light then damages the oil. And then the oil goes rancid, and now it smells bad. So they have to deodorize it. I used to call it de-stinkerize it, because it smells bad, and they could either distill it, molecular distill it, or they wiped film, evaporate it, or they deodorize the oil. This is done at frying temperature. And then you end up with a colorless, odorless, tasteless oil. You can't tell what it came from because any flavors that seeds and nuts have are gone. That's all been removed. And it has a 2 or 3 year shelf life, but that shelf life gotten at the expense of your health, because you have about 1% damaged molecules in an oil like that. And if you take a tablespoon of that oil that is 1% damaged, you will have 60 quintillion damaged molecules in that tablespoon that never existed in nature, that life never made a program to break down. And that's more than 1 million damaged molecules for every one of your body's 60 trillion cells. And we use 2 to 4 tablespoons on average, adults. So you have to multiply that number by 2 to 4. And then we use the oils for frying. And you have to probably multiply it by another 3 to 6 times, because when you heat those oils, light, oxygen, and heat all damage oils, because these are most sensitive molecules in all of our nutrients. I call omega-3 the God molecule, because it's a very high energy molecule. And that makes 2 things. It gives you energy for healing and for, you know, body energy, but it also spoils easily by light, oxygen, and heat. So with that sensitivity, you get a benefit, but you also get a drawback. And in order to make those oils not damaged, you have to make a system where you press the oil out of the seeds that is super, super, super tight, so that no oxygen, no light, and no heat get to the oil while it's being pressed, while it's being filtered, while it's being settled, while it's being filled. And then it goes in the fridge, and it goes in a box because it's in brown glass, and that cuts out a lot of the light, but you want to cut it all out. So you put a box around it, and then you keep it in the fridge, because the lower the temperature, the slower the oil will react with anything. And then when you get it home, you keep it in the fridge. And when you use it, you never, ever, ever, ever should use it for frying, because you take the most sensitive oil, and when you fry it, it gets more damaged than some of the harder fats, some of the fats that are not as good for your body. So what you do instead is you cook in water, and then you add good oils, both for flavor and the absorption of oil-soluble nutrients, after the food comes off the heat. And literally, oils go on fruit, they go on vegetables, they go on starches, they go on proteins, you know, and they do really nice things with spices. But you do not want to fry it. If it goes in piping hot food, soup, like a miso soup or something like that, that's okay. You put it on before you eat the soup, and then you can mix it in, or it'll float on the top, and it enhances flavors. It makes things taste really good, and it is good for health because it absorbs the oil-soluble nutrients better. So that's another one of the things people have no idea. Now, when I ask people, you know, how many damaged molecules do you think, if I haven't already told them, I can't ask you now because I've already told you, right? But I ask them before I tell them, and say, how many damaged molecules do you think you might have in a tablespoon? And, you know, they guess. Some people say, oh, I don't know, 10, you know, 100, 1,000, 1,000,000. If they get really gutsy, they say, well, how about 1 billion? And every time I do this, and I've done this many, many times traveling around the world, the highest estimate of damage in the oil is always 1 billion times too low. So then I say to them, okay, so if you were going to the airport and you were going to fly home for the holidays, and you found out before you got on the plane from someone who you trust to tell you the truth, that your chance of crashing and dying on that trip was 1 billion times higher than you thought it was, would you get on the airplane? And they're all sitting there shaking their head till their head falls off, right? Because, and then I say, is that enough, knowing that you've underestimated it by 1 billion times? Is that enough for you to consider making better choices, either eating the seeds and nuts that contain oils, or getting oils that have been made with health rather than shelf life in mind, and have been properly made, properly packaged, and kept refrigerated so that you keep them fresh? Because these are very sensitive. They're like lettuce and tomatoes. You know, these are good foods, but they spoil. And the practitioners say, eat foods that spoil, just eat them before they do. But the same thing is true for the oil, right? Get good oils. They're perishable. Use them with care, because if you care for them, they will care for your health. And if you damage them, they will damage your health. See, they're vindictive. They treat you like you treat them. Mm-hmm. And frying, there's the third part. The frying is the single most damaging, stupidest things that we have ever invented to do to our food. Wow. And when you fry, you burn the protein, and the damaged part increases inflammation and cancer. If you burn starch, increase inflammation and cancer from these damaged molecules. And if you fry oils, increase inflammation and cancer from the damage you do to the oil molecules. And so if you want health, you need to get rid of your frying pan. And I tell people to take it out. You know, everybody's got a frying pan, right? Because everybody everywhere these days fries, because it's supposed to be faster. It's supposed to be better. It's not. It's worse. And
Can you saute, Udo?
Yeah. If there's only one bullet in your revolver and you play Russian roulette, you have 1/6 chance of shooting yourself in the head.
I want to ask,
because that's a what can I get away with question, right?
Yeah, it was because I'm thinking people might wonder, like, if I don't turn it up high and fry, I could just do it on a low heat and toss it, and
Yeah, instead of putting 6 bullets in the 6 chambers, I'll just put 1 in. Right? Because we asked the question, what can I get away with? But why can't we ask, what would I have to do to have the absolute best health and longest life on this planet? Well, first, you got to enjoy it. And number 2, you got to live in line with nature. And frying pan is not a nature's invention.
So we have to throw it away.
So you have to throw it. Yeah, you hit yourself on the head, so it's associated with pain, and then you throw it away. Until you can bring it back only if you ever see a squirrel with a frying pan.
Okay.
Oh.
You might see a squirrel in a frying pan, but that doesn't count. You don't see a squirrel carrying a frying pan and cooking the nuts and seeds. It does. No creature in nature fries food.
But Udo, let me tell you something. India has, I don't know, 1.2 billion population now. Yep. And the most, like, I do Indian cooking every day. Whether, and it's simple cooking, whether I'm just, making lentil, we call it as dal, or making vegetables.
Oh, yes.
The first thing that once we pressure cook the lentils, we put something called tadka. In Hindi, it's called tadka. Okay. So what that means is we take a teaspoon of oil, we fry it, and we put, things like mustard seeds and asafoetida and all of that, just for seasoning, to put. That's like the end of the cooking. So that is something that we do for everything. Like, that is the basic. So what would you suggest? Like, what? Well, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So ghee or sesame oil have been used traditionally in India. I think maybe other oils too, but those 2 I know. And ghee is much less sensitive to damage than omega-3 and omega-6 are. So you get less damage when you use a harder fat if you're going to fry. But the hard fat doesn't give you the 2 things you need from oils. The only 2 things you need from oils, omega-3 and omega-6, because they're essential. Your body can't make them from anything else. Your life can't make them out of anything else. So they have to be brought in from outside. Well, ghee contains virtually very little of either. And sesame oil contains omega-6, which is essential, but it contains no omega-3. And omega-3 is 5 times more sensitive and way better for you. You could also, these days, you could take your spices and blend them in a good oil, and you would get those flavors, and that would work just as well. The only thing you won't get is the burnt taste, and the burnt taste is toxic. And if you're used to it, it's because you love your mother and your mother did it. So you have to separate the mother love and keep it, and examine the habit and ditch it, because it's not good for you. Right? Now, when we started working with omega-3, that was only established as essential in 1981. Omega-6 was known as essential in 1929. And when I started talking to people about Ayurvedic medicine, they didn't know what to do with omega-3s because they weren't in the diet. They're in any identified fashion. The omega-6s were identified, the omega-3s were not. So there's very little in Ayurvedic medicine about the importance of omega-3s. And 99% of the population doesn't get enough of them for optimum health. It is the single most widespread essential nutrient deficiency of our time around the globe.
Wow. So now, Udo, your oil is a blend of 3, 6, 9s, and you've talked a lot about 3s and 6. What about the omega-9?
Yeah, 3 and 6 are essential. And essential, just to spell it out exactly, essential means this is a nutrient that your life cannot make in your body from anything else. So therefore you have to bring it in from outside, and you need it to live and be healthy. So it has to come from outside, either from food or from supplement or from bottled oils. If you don't get enough, you cannot stay healthy. Your energy will go down, your health will go down, you will get deficiency symptoms. Those symptoms are degenerative in nature and look like our degenerative diseases, because everything falls apart, because every cell needs them, right? So these symptoms become worse with time. And if you don't get enough long enough, you die. These are the most foundational building blocks for body construction and body function. And then the third part and this is the hopeful part of essential, is if you're going down because you're not getting enough of an essential nutrient. But before you die, you bring enough of it back into the diet, here, then all of the symptoms that come from not getting enough are reversed, because life knows what to do to build a body that works, provided we take responsibility here to make sure that enough of all of the essential nutrients land in our body so life can use them to do its work. And that definition fits 18 minerals, 13 vitamins, 8 essential amino acids that come from proteins, and the 2 essential fatty acids called omega-3 and omega-6. Now, omega-9 is not essential. Your body can make that out of sugar and starch. Saturated fats are not essential because your body can make those out of sugar and starch. So only omega-3 and 6 of everything in oils and fats, the one thing you want to make sure to bring in and optimize if you want to live a long, healthy life is omega-3 and omega-6. And both of them should be organic, and both of them should be made with health in mind and not damaged. And both of them should be in the right ratio to each other. And both of them should be packaged in glass, because when you put oils in plastic, they swell the plastic, and plastic leaches into oil faster than it leaches into water. So 3, 6, and 9. So that's 3, 6, and 9. It's called 3, 6, and 9. That's just a marketing thing. But only 3 and 6 are essential.
And I want to circle back, Udo, and kind of a statement and maybe some more validation on what you said earlier, because you kind of touched on it there about the glass bottle, the way things are made and so on. Yeah. Just the importance when we look at the things that we buy in the supermarket, because you talked about shelf life and the business behind the product versus the nutritional value and health in mind for the product, and how so many things out there, such as sugar, flour, rice, all get stripped of all those natural things so that they have a longer shelf life, right?
Right. Because shelf life is a big deal. See, if I make an oil that has a 3-year shelf life in Vancouver, where I live, I can sell it in New Delhi, and I can sell it in Montreal, and I can sell it in Johannesburg. But in order to be able to get a really big market, you have to make things, you have to create something that creates a long shelf life. Now, what's funny about that is when we send steaks around the world, we actually freeze them. So we take the care of the meat, because we know if we sent a steak to India from Vancouver, by the time it got there, it would be a can of worms. Literally, right? So we do it with steaks. We also do it with ice cream. And for some reason, for the essential nutrients that are most sensitive to damage, we just didn't want to do it. Instead of it, we took a whole lot of the nutrition out of the oils and out of the seeds and out of the nuts, and then made something that we could sell far and wide without giving it any care. So the question is, why don't you want to give things that need care? The reason, because the result of that is that more health problems, more physical health problems come, and some mental ones as well, come from damaging or not getting enough of the essential fatty acids. More health problems come from that than any other part of nutrition. And more health benefits will come from getting the oils, giving the oils the care they need, making them with health in mind, and optimizing our intake of omega-3 and omega-6. More than any other. Why? Because 99% doesn't get enough omega-3s. Every cell needs them. There are far fewer sources of omega-3s and omega-6s. And they weren't established as essential until 1981. Just the time when I started working with oils after getting poisoned and looking for a way to get my health back. And I had the background in biological science and biochemistry and genetics. So it was fun. And when I realized, oh my God, this is what we've done to oils, and these are the most sensitive. And it was like, oh my God, if we could make oils with health in mind and bring the omega-3s back and use undamaged omega-6s and put that together, we could help so many people. And I went off like a firecracker. I got so excited. Oh my God, I finally found a purpose for my life. Because I wondered for years and years. I was 38 when I got poisoned. So I started working with that when I was 39. And it was always, yeah, here's something that's actually worth doing. That isn't just stuff. That isn't just, something. And I don't know why I was so driven by purpose, but I was always looking for what can I do here? What can I do there that really means something? And that was like my first purpose. And that's why we were on fire and we were working day and night. And it was so fun. It was so fun just because, oh my God, because what else is better to do on this planet than make quality of life better for in any way I can, for as many people as I can, and for the entire environment. So anyway, long.
No, great answer.
Yeah.
But I mean, listening to all of this, it makes me think, why is this not taken seriously? Why is this not in the mainstream? This is such an important aspect of health, and everybody's talking about health, working out and taking care of their diets. But everything that listening to you sounds like this is the most important aspect and the critical item that we need to take care of.
Yeah. Well, it is. If you want to be healthy, if you want to have a quality of life. But, most people don't live for the highest quality of life. They live for the lowest common denominator. Mm-hmm. Right? Why? Because we're not inspired. Because I could give it lots of other examples. Peace, real peace has always existed everywhere. And everything we do takes place in a place of peace, even war. Right? Because the peace is in the soldiers, the peace is around the soldiers, between the soldiers, above them, below them. But the soldiers are not focused on the peace that is the high quality of life. They're focused on an idea. You're my enemy and I'm going to kill you. And the other guy, it says in his head, no, you're my enemy and I'm going to kill you. Yeah. Right? And then in the midst of peace, surrounded by peace and filled with peace, they then act on a thought that is super destructive. And if they actually felt the peace inside, they'd put down their weapons and have lunch, right? So you can ask that same question. Why aren't we doing that with oils? Because we're stupid. Why aren't we doing that with peace? Because we haven't done our homework. Because when you do your homework and you discover instead of saying, what can I get away with? Why do you say, okay, how good can it get? Instead of striving to live the life of the masters, we just say, well, I just like to have a little house and a little this and a little that and go to the movies and watch a football game, and we're thinking that those are substitutes for what life could feel like when we're fully present in it. Well, with oils, it's the same thing. Why? Because people who said, hey, if we can make oil and sell it everywhere, we have a big company, we can make a lot of money.
Yeah.
whatever they spend the money on, but the ideas become, oh, money is everything. Actually, life is everything. Life is the treasure on this planet. Money and everything else is supposed to serve life. And if there is a divine purpose for life, or life's purpose for us, it's to, here we are made out of a little bit of light, made out of a little bit of oxygen, made out of a whole bunch of water, made out of a little bit of dust. And dust is interesting, but not that interesting. And water is interesting, but not that interesting. And oxygen is interesting, but not that interesting. And light is interesting, but not that interesting. And when you put them all together and mix them up in a process that took like 4 billion years to perfect, and here you are, just a mixture of mud and water, right? Mud, water, and gas, right? And sunlight. And you get to have the human experience. And how sensitive we are, and how incredible it is that we can feel all kinds of stuff, positive and negative. And that if we bring our awareness back home inside to the core of our being, we will actually feel like the masters felt and get to live the life that the masters lived. And if 8 billion people did that, we could be here. We are just, our nature is solar energy is our life. And we could literally just be buzzing around, enjoying ourselves, singing and dancing, and shining on each other. It's completely possible to do that for human beings. Right? But we have filters that keep us from doing that. And they're all made out of thoughts. Oh, life is so hard. Oh, I don't know. The reason why I have a crummy life is because my daddy spanked me once too often. Or, it's like,
yeah.
And we use that as our guidelines for the time we spend on earth, and how sad when it's possible to live in bliss and ecstasy and peace and unconditional love, because all of that exists in us and is more us than what we think.
Wow. Beautiful.
So, yeah. So, but yeah, it's a good question. Why aren't we doing that thing with oils?
Yeah.
Because the information is around. How do you know it's around? Well, at least it's around because I've got it.
Because Udo's around.
And I've been making a lot of noise, and it's still really, really small. And people are in their habits and they don't feel that good about living. So it's really hard to make changes when you're not inspired.
Mm-hmm.
So in order to get the changes done, we have to get inspired by doing our homework. And then we have to let that rub off on other people, influence other people, because that's automatic. If I'm inspired, it's automatic.
Absolutely. And most of the times I see people around me as living in survival. They're just surviving, doing their everyday stuff, and they don't even have that energy or interest
right.
to look anything deeper or creative.
Right. And you know what the really sad thing is about living for survival? You ain't going to survive.
Yeah.
Right? After you fight for 60, 70, 80 years for survival, and then your body craps out anyway. Right? So since you know that your body's going to crap out anyway, why don't you see if you can't fly while you're alive, thrive while you're alive? Because that too is possible, but it's just a different focus. Right? And it's as possible as living by survival. And, and probably the biggest job to do on the planet is to find ways that you can inspire people. Because then they begin to say, hey, wow, if this can happen ever, why can't it happen twice as often as it does? And why can't it happen all the time?
I love that to just talk about inspiration, because that's one of the purposes of my life, is to be an inspiration for others to, get this information and be inspired to have a better everyday life, not just for ourselves, but when we have it for ourselves, we can share it with others because, we're doing it. So now, Udo.
But you have to start with yourself, because you can't give what you ain't got.
Exactly.
And we all have it within us, but we have homework to do. And it takes a little bit of effort.
Yeah.
But
And
it's
you
unbelievably worth it.
and you and I have talked about this on a number of occasions, is we'll never find what we're looking for or what we think we need outside of ourselves.
Well, we'll find what we need outside on the outside, but we won't find what we need on the inside on the outside.
Exactly.
It's like, so that song, and I still haven't found what I'm looking for. You know why? Because you're not looking where it is.
Exactly.
It's like I have $1 million in my left pocket and I only look in my right pocket for money.
Yeah.
I go on welfare because I say, I don't have any money.
Yeah.
And I got $1 million in my left pocket.
Now, Udo, you're going to be coming up speaking at the Spiritual Science International Meet here on January 30th and 31st.
Yeah.
And you're going to be speaking about really the topic of your new book. It's not so new. It's been out for a couple of years now, Total Sexy Health.
Yeah.
So maybe you can give us a preview of what that's about.
Okay. It's called The Book on Total Sexy Health, the 8 Key Parts Designed by Nature. And it really has come out of my interest in health after I got poisoned. And I started talking, and then I would see people who had lots and lots and lots of good information, but they wouldn't put it in practice. And it was like, well, why is that? Oh yeah, when you're not inspired, it doesn't matter how much information you have, you ain't gonna do it because it's too much work. So then I realized, okay, it's important to give accurate information, because that's, because if you lie about things, you take away people's choice. So it's lying is a form of dictatorship. So you want to give people really good, accurate information that when they act on it, they will get something out of it. But you also have to inspire people. And the inspiration is as important as the information. And you do that with humor, and you do it with, stories, and, so, and then I got into digestion, because I work with digestive enzymes and probiotics, because digestion is the next, the second most commonly neglected part of physical health. So I got into doing that. And then one thing led to another, and I was asking, well, what else affects health? And when you sit quiet enough and look around and ask yourself what affects health, the answer you'll come up with, everything affects health. And so then I said, okay, well, I have another mission. I want to turn health into a systematically organized, teachable field. And I want to do the same thing with human nature, because that's where all our problems come from not being in line with our nature and with our health. And so I decided to call it the book on total sexy health, because sexy is the power word. And when we talk about sexy, we're not talking about Kama Sutra, or, we're not talking about missionary position. We're not talking about that. Sexy in street use is presence, is alert, is alive, is wired, is conscious, is, it's full on, right? Fully present. So that I used that word because it's the power word. And then I talked about what each one of the parts of nature and human nature, 8 parts, what each one brings to presence, brings to sexy. And the idea is people use sexy to sell everything. And it's about time somebody used sexy to sell people on themselves, on their magnificence. And I get to do that. And I really like that I get to do that. And so we're really talking about awareness and life energy and inspired creativity, physical body, survival smarts, social group, environment, and the big picture of here I am in a temporary body, as a terminal condition. The human body is a terminal condition in an infinite universe, and to be okay with that. And the goal that I have for 8 billion people, should they want it, is that 8 billion people could live their lives lit up from within, because the light's already there. It's just a matter of looking into it instead of looking away from it, because that's what we usually do. We look away from it and we miss who's looking, right? And when that happens, we will feel so fulfilled and so cared for, because life loves the body unconditionally, 24/7, 365. We will feel so cared for that we won't steal each other's stuff. And when we stop stealing each other's stuff, we can live in harmony. And when we live in harmony and feel taken care of, then making sure that everything works for everybody on this planet becomes very doable. Because when I feel fulfilled and I practice that, and I'm not talking myself into it, I'm just bringing my awareness inside to where fulfillment naturally lives in every human being. So when I'm in that place, I'm not looking for, what can I do to make money? What can I do to get taken care of? What, because when don't feel taken care of, I'm a taker. I'm always taken. Anything I do, even everything that I supposedly altruistic I do, there's always a, yeah, but what's in it for me? And I won't do things where I can't see that there's something in it for me. So I'm a taker. When I start feeling cared for, then it's like, okay, doesn't have to be about me anymore. I feel taken care of. If I don't feel taken care of, I know where to go to feel cared for, because it's in me. I have it. I carry it with me everywhere I go. And then it's like, okay, what needs to be done around here? Where can I help? How can I make the biggest splash for good in the time that I have in human form on this planet? And kind of, we're going to talk about that, what those 8 parts are and the parts they play, because each one of those parts has a different nature, a different nature and a different function. Each one needs attention on a regular basis. Each one goes off in a different way, and each one responds to a different kind of intervention. So for instance, if you are missing vitamin C in your body, you will get scurvy. If you pray to God to make your scurvy go away, that may not work unless you get a vitamin C pill, right? So you have to take, or, if you feel discontent in your heart, if your heart aches, then eating potatoes is not going to fix it, because potatoes are for the physical body, not for the heartache. What does the heartache need? It needs us to sit with it and sit through it, and then find the contentment and the peace behind it. So whatever symptoms people have and whatever issues people have, if you understand what the issue is and you understand how human nature works, then you can help them with the appropriate intervention to what they're actually suffering from. But most people don't know human nature that well. So they only just do what they're good at. So some people do everything with talking, and some people do everything with food, and some people do everything with prayer. But there are actually 8 things that you need to look at, not just one, right? And so the goal is that every human being could live fully present in all of their being and their surroundings, and not be lost in their head in negative emotions and negative thoughts that prevent them from living fully. So that's basically what we're going to talk about, and I'll just get into more detail.
Wow, that sounds so amazing, and it's completely in alignment with what the work that we are doing, which is teaching, spreading the awareness of plant-based diet and teaching meditation. This is one of the biggest and the main focus of the organization is to teach meditation to the masses, to the grassroots level. So as you mentioned, like, it's not about praying, it's about going within, about finding that peace within, and which is
yeah. And when you do meditation, you're not in a babble prayer, right? Oh God, take this away from you. Oh God, blah, 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 or memorized or anything like that. Sure, you can ask, but more than anything, feel, because in you is every negative feeling, and at the same time, every positive feeling. And you actually, when you sit still, you start to notice you have choice, which feeling you decide to live by. Right? right? That's so cool, and sitting still is, it's like the most important work we do is sitting still. So the most important work we do is nothing.
Yeah.
Do nothing, become everything. And give you, and just like you eat breakfast every day, or you go to the bathroom every day, or you put on your clothes every day, and you take your clothes off every day, and you sleep every night. Every day we're doing a whole bunch of things. One more thing to do: make time every day to spend some time by yourself with all your gadgets unhooked, sitting still, seeing how still you can get, breathing lightly, feeling what it feels like to be still. See how deep you can go. See how long you can stay there. Every day is so important. And if 8 billion people took a day just to sit still, nobody would get killed. There would be no war. We wouldn't wreck any trees. We wouldn't have any political wars, right? If we just, and then maybe at some point we can go a little more than one day.
Yeah.
First 1 minute, then 1 hour, then 1 day, and then we can live simultaneously present in our peace and living into the world from that peace. We will create a very different world than the world we've created from anger and fear and depression and anxiety and revenge and all of that. Very different. And we have a choice. We've created a mess, and we can create something incredibly beautiful that is aligned with nature and our nature. So that's what I talk about. It's my delight to do that. I got a lot of help from in a lot of different ways to find that, because I was born during a war, and we were refugees when I was less than 3 years old, running from the communists and being shot at by the Allies. And so it's why I started thinking about this very early, when I was 6 years old. There must be a way to live in harmony. I'm going to find out how. So this is my driver all my life.
Wow.
Great adventure.
Beautiful. I always love it when you share, Udo, and it comes down to, like you were saying right at the beginning, it's we look at nature, and that's sitting still and being still, and these phones and things, that's not nature. That's a man-made construct, and the cities are a concrete jungle, and we don't get enough nature. We don't get enough natural whole foods, and it just makes sense that we look to nature for the answers. So I'm always grateful to be able to have the opportunity to speak with you and to hear your words of wisdom and have fun doing it. We always seem to have fun and a good time when we connect. So I always thank you for that. And I thank you for the work you do and the way that your work has, changed the lives of what I probably have to imagine as millions of people around the world, because I know you've been around and done a lot of great stuff, been on a number of stages and talked to a lot of people. So thank you for your ease and flow.
Just remember that it takes one to recognize one.
Thanks, my friend. Wow. So Pari, I don't know if you have anything more to say. I always like to ask, people if, where they can learn more about you, your work, find your books and things of that nature. I know you've got some online courses you've started putting out there. So if you want to, give yourself a plug that way, that would be great.
Sure. Yeah. The products that I work with are on 𝗏𝗏𝗃𝗀𝗏.com. So UDOS choice.com. And we talk about the oils and digestion and enzymes, probiotics, fiber, and a bunch of other things, and recipes and all that kind of stuff. And then the other one is called TheUdo.com, and we have some courses and we have a lot of educational material, kind of like more what I've been talking about, at the end of this, how to live fully present in all of your being and your surroundings. And what's so interesting is that when you understand human nature, excuse me, you actually get good insight in just about anything you look at. Simple, practical, actionable insight. And it's really fun to be able to live like that.
And of course, you know, the cleaner your body is, the more natural, the more tuned it is, with less junk and garbage clogging up all the receptors and synapses and transmissions of energy and things going on. You know, our intuition, like you just said, it's more heightened. You're tapped in, tuned in, turned on, right?
Yeah, not just intuition, but also insight, because, you know, inside of us, a friend of mine called it an ocean of answers or questions that you even haven't formulated yet. So within us is answers to everything. and most of my changes that I've made in my life have come from insight, from sitting still and realizing, just like a little blip, oh, if I'd have lived, you know, my father and I didn't get along when I was a kid, you know, and one day I was sitting quietly and it occurred to me that that if I had went through the life he went through, I would have turned out like him. He went through the First World War, the Bolshevik Revolution, the Depression, and the Second World War. And it was a tough life. And some of it he took out on me, and I didn't like it. But when I had that insight, it was like all my animosity towards him was gone, just from a realization. Simple realization.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Udo, it's such a pleasure talking to you, Udo. I'm so deeply grateful for joining us on this platform, because this message, again, as we mentioned, even Marc yesterday, like all these presentations are so important and need to reach the masses more than ever. And so we are so grateful for taking this time and coming on this platform and talking to us, and also coming on 31st.
And I'm grateful for you creating the amplifier for the message, because you're doing all that, right? And so I really look forward to coming on the 31st. And
yes,
it's going to be a fun day. I look forward to it, Udo, because I'm going to work on your oh, we got some dogs going on.
Yeah, it's okay. And I will bring some tea so I don't choke on
I know. It's been an hour, so we totally understand. And someday, not someday, soon, probably we'll take you to India to teach over there, because that's very important. Yeah, and Marc as well, of course. Marc is going to join me. That invitation is always there, and I want Marc to join this December in India. So mark that in the calendar.
If COVID is still happening, we may have to canoe there.
Yeah.
We'll take your private plane, Udo.
Oh yeah. I'm gonna fly a kite. Or
well, I'm gonna ride your kite tails.
Yeah, a kite and a broomstick.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Udo. It's always a pleasure, and thank you, Pari, for having me on your team. It's just an honor and a pleasure, and I'm just grateful to be able to share the message with everybody who's listening out there. So thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for what you're doing in the world.
Yes, thank you. And Marc, you are part of PSSM, so it's everybody knows now. So there's you are the host now. So yeah.
There you go. That's a promotion.
It is. Awesome. Well, thank you so much again, Udo, and I look forward to connecting again on the 31st if I don't see you before then.
All right.
All right.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you.